Let's give a quick chat about the anatomy coloring book that we made a little bit ago. This is an interactive tool for educational purposes mostly. We combine the aspects of coloring along with the segmentation of the human body, and then the definitions and learning numbered and labeled for which bones connect to which parts of the skeleton. Metacarpals to the finger bones, to the wrist bones in the hand, etc. This is a pretty unique approach to education. The reason that we put this together was we've got a pre-med student. She was studying anatomy as part of her courses. She's since changed direction to become more of a research scientist than actually go into a hospital, be a doctor. The courses were the same, anatomy was still required. That was the fundamental inspiration for the anatomy coloring book, building a study aid for somebody inside the house. And because it's an ongoing problem that anybody who's in a situation where you're going to be having a conversation about pretty much anything medical, you're going to need to know where the bones are. It sounds like an obvious statement, but pretty much anybody who's doing anything from as bone fundamental as being a chiropractor, through being a nurse, through being a physical education teacher, or being anything like a doctor or any form of anatomy study, you're going to have to figure out what the bones are just to pass your class. And the reason we did this was because it was a relaxing, find the bone, color the bone, highlight back the same color that you made the bone on the list of which bones go where. That was one of the basic concepts we put together for the book. So we could basically effectively build our own color coding for the skeletons so we could rapidly look between the pages and memorize. That's the core summary for the book. Setup wise, how the book is set up, it's basically broken into sections of the body. And if I remember correctly, it's more or less top down, and then each section, so say the skull, will start with the front, cover the side, cover the back, cover the top, and then it'll break out the pieces like the jaw and look at the teeth and stuff like that. As we're going through segments of the body, we'll go from like the head to the shoulders and torso, and then we'll go through the torso, the spine, the ribs, all the clavicles and all the kind of cool stuff in there. We'll flip around, look at the backs, you see in the scapula and all the kind of cool bones out there. And then we'll work our way down the arm, discussing the pieces of the arm. And then as another technique for learning, there's a little bit of repetition to it, because obviously as we're going through different sections of the body, as we're changing the direction, as we're changing the orientations, we're changing the zooms for like super close to the hand, you get the hand bones and then come into the wrists, then the bones in the arm that connect to the wrist. And then we go into like basically the portions of those bones. And the reason that's important is because the repetition in itself, by changing the zooms, so if we zoom in on the hand, we're going to have mostly hand bones with a little bit of lower arm bone. But if you zoom in for the entire arm, you're going to have the main arm bones, you're going to have the lower bones, and you're going to have the connections to the wrist, for example. So you're going to have repetition between sections, which allows you to make the connection in your mind with that repetition to the different areas, the different views, the different perspectives on those bones, which is cool because that was basically how we oriented it. And that was actually a suggestion early on to make sure that we had a proper presentation of all the different bone sections. Really, the outstanding theme for the book is twofold. The first and primary is the education side. And the reason that the book is education is obviously the study of anatomy. There's a biology function to it. So anybody who's getting into the medical, pre-med, etc., anyone who is in a position where they have to study the anatomy of the skeleton, this is a nice little fun study aid. On the other hand, you've got Halloween coming up from the release of the video, about 23 days from Halloween. Obviously, the skeleton is fun, so tongue-in-cheek, we can look at it as, hey, we're not just getting our kids something spooky to play with, we're making them learn the skeletons in the human body, so haha, tricks on you, kid. That's a fun perspective on it, seeing as the Halloween's around the corner. The author's process and unique elements to the book were pretty difficult. This book actually took a lot longer than we anticipated. There's effectively 3 of us working on the book. So we had a chiropractic doctor that I know for a long time, like 12 years. And he gave some ideas and suggestions and stuff, ran through it, edited it, and he gave his blessing on the product because it's pretty darn good by his eye. But assembling the images was exceptionally difficult. Putting together proper images of the bones was much more challenging than we originally anticipated. The quality of the images that we were using, we had to go back in and we had to spend days and days and days editing and cleaning up the images for Maria so we had sufficient quality on our presentation. Then going through and basically connecting the list of every single bone on every single coloring portion, that was a challenge too, because We had to go in and meticulously review every single bone in every single image. It took a lot longer content-wise than any of us anticipated. I think we figured we'd be done with it in probably a third of the time that it ended up taking us. That was a substantial surprise. The unique element to the book, like I said before, I think is the grouping and the repetition. And the reason we grouped was because they're intellectually easy to put things together in a group. We understand what the arm is, and we understand what the leg is, and we understand where the foot goes. By grouping things together, we're giving quick reference to not only where things go, but how it connects within the book. The unique element of image on the one side that we're coloring mirrored to the left side of the book has the text. So as you're holding the book, the left side of the book is text with the names of the bones, and on the other side, the right side, is the color side. My personal take on the book is that it was a lot of fun to do. I think this was our first coloring book. It was also our first educational book. And the reason we made the educational piece was because we had a pressing issue creating a study aid for somebody in the house so she could do better in her anatomy class. And that was fun. It was a lot of fun building a book for a member of the family. It is a very useful book. The niche that we're looking at is predominantly going to be people in the sciences and in the healthcare niche, people who are high school to college level anatomy, where you're doing your high school biology and you're learning about the human anatomy, or you're doing anatomy for pre-med or a chiropractic. As far as recommendations for this work, I think that the highest recommendation I can give for you is someone who's actively engaged in studying anatomy, because then you have actually something that you can latch onto. If you want to color in the skeleton for fun, Halloween is just around the corner. The Halloween aspect of coloring in the skeleton is lots of fun. So we had a little bit of movie magic in there, but ta-da! Here's the book, Anatomy of the Skeleton. You can take different little sections of the body and color in. So fun. That was the hard copy, the hardbound book. If you want to be like super fancy textbook style, we do have a paperback copy. The recommendations would be Halloween's right around the corner. Anybody who's studying anatomy. But you have a great day.